All right, and we're back with Jason from GCT Studios, the makers of Bushido. How's it going, Jason?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me on. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, we're great, man. We're really excited. We were talking in the little pre-interview that our booth was next to yours at Adepticon, and we had briefly talked to you guys there, and then Evan did a demo at Gen Con, and then he talked to me about it and showed me the what is it, Evan? The gremlins, those
Oh, the Jay's got a theme. He loves anything gremlin, so we're
gremlin or
talking about,
goblin. I'm
yeah,
100% on board.
the Savage Wave starter.
Yeah.
Got some of them like in a game called Malifaux. There's the Bayou where they're all gremlins there too. So it's just like one unified theme.
Yeah, and then back in original, Warhammer like Fantasy 7th and 8th edition, I was playing the orcs and goblins too. So I just, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, I'm sold. Yeah, like give me all of that.
Oh, you should like it if you play the Malifaux, especially. These ones can also they can grow the warband as you play. What was it? Get your brother or something like that in Malifaux.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
well, the Bakemono can summon from the shadows, so they can just bring more Bakemono out of the tunnels and things like that.
Oh, that's cool.
There's a
I'm so
particularly
excited.
horrible one that's just come out. He looks disgusting. He's basically, it turns out that Bakemono lay eggs. And as you kill one, there are 2 eggs inside every Bakemono. So you kill one, you get 2. So he literally has that as a rule. If you kill him, you replace him with 2 Bakemono with 1 wound.
Oh,
That's
I'm
cool.
so happy right now.
That's awesome.
I'm so
That's awesome.
happy.
Is that the
Yami really
Mora?
nice. Yeah, it just looks disgusting.
Love to see it.
God. That's
actually really cool.
Great. This is going to be great. You're in trouble, Evan.
Oh, good. I hope so. So I did the I didn't. So we purchased the starter, 2-player starter, because that's in our eyes that's like a core. A lot. It's people come up and say, "Hey, I want to get you a miniature game. I don't want to jump in with $2,000 and then realize I hate it." So a 2-player starter is always like double thumbs up for me because it's just an easy do this. So we did that, and then I'm thinking, well, Jay and I like to customize everything we do. So I showed him the Savage Wave, and I did the prefecture of Ryu, and just because they looked very like traditionally samurai, I guess, for lack of a better word. I'm sorry, just very on brand. I guess.
So they're the samurai army faction. They're all samurai or ashigaru, which are like the non-noble foot troops. So yeah,
awesome.
Any of your samurai movies, there'll be inspiration in the prefecture army. Yeah.
Oh, that's sweet. I'm really hoping, so we had just talked briefly before. Oh man, that's an awesome model. The Takahashi Hero, that's really cool. Actually, we'll put some pictures up while we're in post. But we had mentioned that I'd really been at the Test of Honor, and I was kind of bummed out that the game, I remember being at a Nova, this was 2017, and they really sold me on it. He's like, yeah, it's a pretzel and sake game. It's a new thing. It's going to be great. And then I bought in terrain and everything, and the game just disappeared. And then I'm like, I actually was just about to get rid of that terrain. It's all they have the rice huts and the town tower and everything. And I made little carts. And then I walked by this booth again. I'm like, oh, they were, I actually had time to stop. I wasn't playing Legion or anything. I'm like, oh, Bushido. I remember seeing those guys, and I saw a demo and I was sold immediately. I'm just like, oh, it's a 2 foot by 2 foot. Go on. I mean, I don't need a 6x4. I don't need a. So to that point, what would your my question, I guess, is what would your elevator pitch for the game be? If someone came up to you and they're like, tell me about this, how would you describe your game?
So it's a 28 mil skirmish game. It's about 7 models a side. The really important parts of it, like you say, it's 2x2, which means that if you play it at home, you've got space to play. It doesn't matter where you live, really. And if you play it in a store or at a club, If they run Magic the Gathering, which everywhere does, they've got space for Bushido because we take up less space than a Magic game. So most game stores and clubs love it because it's not taking up 6 people playing Magic space. It's taking up 2 people playing Magic space, and you can have a full tournament in a really small space as well. The actual game itself, you'll when you play, you'll find that it's not just about killing the enemy. We have a tournament pack out for Masters tournaments, and it's very scenario based. It's not just kill all the enemy models and win, which really relieves things like the first turn advantage that you get in some games, or you can make a gun line if you want, and you can probably kill all your opponent's models, but he will have won the game while you were doing that because you have to get on these objectives or in the zones or whatever it is.
Yeah.
The other big selling point, if you saw the demo, you will have seen the melee exchange mechanic. And this is my favorite thing about the game, because it's if you've played a lot of skirmish level games like Guild Ball or something like that, your opponent often will go, oh, you know what, I need 3s to do this, I've got this many dice, then I just need 4s, I can work all this out, and then it's like, oh well, now we're just sort of rolling dice to see whether you do it or not. You've worked out that it's 70% likely to win the game. But with this, because you're both assigning attack and defense dice into your pool, you never know what the odds are going to be until you roll. So you can't plan that far ahead. And there's all the sort of mind games, I mean, the amount of times that I've got my biggest guy and charged into somebody and then rolled all defense because I know what my opponent's going to do, and he's not expecting that basically, and then my defense special defense triggers and I get to do something, or somebody comes at you with your guy on 1 wound left and you roll all attack because you've got reach and you manage to kill them before he kills you. Those mind games that you can play with the abilities and the key feats, and then just assigning those dice, it's different to anything else I've played.
Yeah, it kind of, I was pitched to it as it's like liar's dice. How the one guy was kind of at the booth was explaining to me, and they were rolling. And I like the idea that it's like, so Jay and I play a lot of combat miniature games, and it gets to like when I was trying to explain to somebody in my office how 40K played, and I'm like, well, you roll to see if you hit, then you roll to see if you wound, and then they roll to see if they take the damage, and they're like, what? I was trying to like, well, now you need 4s, now you need 5s, and they're like all this kind of cha stuff. And even Legion, which is much easier, just like roll, look for paint, and then you roll your dice and you look for paint, and you kind of like just line them up and be like, okay, you take 3. Like even that is just like it's fine and it works and it's what it is, but it like there's not any like mind, like you said, the rolling in the mind games is really cool, right? Melee combats, you dream of samurai and they're doing the cool movie thing, right, where they're both standing waiting for the other guy to like go. So that's a really cool combat system.
Yeah, so it's made possible because we only have 7 models aside. Like if we had the 100 models aside, like 40K, it'd probably get bogged down really quick. But we can make every single action that every model does meaningful and have an effect on the game. It's going to help you win at some point.
So what drew you to kind of the theme of Bushido with all the samurai and then extending it out? What was that something you were really into when you guys started developing the game?
So I wasn't working for GCT when they first created the game, but they used to play Confrontation. And obviously that's another game that like a lot of people really love the mechanics for, a lot of people love the aesthetics for. It went away, and they were looking for something else to play and couldn't find it, so they created Bushido partly from that and from other games that they play, and then their own ideas. I think it was, again, it's like when you've got that melee mechanic, which is very cinematic, you want to take advantage of it with something, and sort of Shaolin monks versus samurai and like the giant Oni and things like that is something that you can really do that with, the sumo guys as well, for that matter. They all have different fighting styles. and it's a fantasy genre based around melee combat. So I think that's one of the reasons. I think also at the time, the game's quite old now. It's well, I won't say old. It's just had a new edition, but it's been around for about 11 years, I think. So at the time, there wasn't really anything else with a miniatures range like that as well.
Yeah.
Malifaux was a few years off doing the 10 Thunders. The board game Risen Sun was 10 years away. So I think they just took advantage of a gap in the market and made something which has turned out to be unique.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting too, because a lot of these games, and this one in particular, I love games that can spread out as the theme, especially like with what we were just talking about, with the goblin or gremlin like faction, and then foxes and I saw some of the ones that were water based with the guy with the crab legs. I forgot his name, but like that looks amazing. And I just love that ability of these games to do that. So for you, when you're coming up with new ideas, or when the team's coming up with new ideas, do you find that like more freeing that you have kind of this wide brush that you can paint with, or does that kind of hinder some of the stuff that you want to do for the future?
No, I think if anything, the huge breadth of Japanese folklore has given us more than we will ever be able to use. So we can happily just take creatures from Japanese mythology and just make models for them and write profiles for them, and that could fill up our release schedule for a few years to come at least. But
Yeah.
we try and do a few other things as well, and obviously we want to emphasize the fantasy side. So sometimes we do write our own stuff as well, and the different samurai clans want different things. So it's having that to fall back on is really good. No, when I first started, I was just given the concepts, and then I sometimes get sent some artwork and have to write the profiles for them. And over the years, I've also done some concepting from scratch as well. But I think most of my stuff, because I'm the developer, so I mostly do writing the profiles and new rules for things. A lot of my stuff comes out of like. For example, one of the first things I did, the Ito clan were having trouble using their priestesses, the Shisai, because they have a rule that says the more Shisai you have, the better they get. But you don't want to take too many, because you need your samurai and things as well. Shisai are spellcasters. So I made a combat Shisai, and that was just a model that the faction kind of wanted to help it along a bit. And that's been often my niche. That's mechanics first model, but I do also like the opposite way of doing it is a top-down model, where we just say, hey, we've got this idea, how would that function in the game? Then you just write those rules, whatever they are, and then luckily we've got some good play testers and developers as volunteers, and they make sure that it all fits and works.
No, so another point I'd like to point out about the game too, that I think is really cool is like, right, your model is, you're about 7 models, like average, we'll say. And so I remember when I first started getting into miniature gaming, my first game was War Machine. And I bought Elves. They just came out and I didn't know what I was buying. But everything was so expensive that the only thing I could afford was just Warcasters, because I didn't know what to, like, I didn't know you can only have one. A Warcaster was like $20. But a box of the guys was like 60. And so it was hard for me to, like, I wanted to play, but I couldn't afford the buy-in, besides like some real basic stuff. So, looking at your models here, I mean, like these are pounds. So however you're listening to this, convert it into whatever currency you're using. But like, $8.95 for a model that's like a seventh of your army or maybe more is really reasonable. Like, actually, like if Evan of like, 17 years ago had found this game, he would have been ecstatic because he could have bought a model every paycheck and like, you know, not like have to, you know, like it's just like the affordability of the game is very nice. It's cool to see that, or it's like, hey, you know, we're a game where you don't need a whole lot of models, and they're not like going to kill you. You're not spending $60 on 10 Space Marines that you need 90 of, right? Like it's just a cool concept. I really like that.
We spent a lot of time, especially in the new edition, with working out the starter boxes as well. So by choosing the models specifically or having new models sculpted for them, we've managed to get the 5 model starter boxes down to $40. And
Wow.
I think the Bakemono one has got 7 models in it, but they are quite small, I guess. But it's that's the only one that's really different. And I think that's I mean that's done obviously to as a way to get people into the game. But 5 models plus 5. Every model comes with its own profile card, so you don't need other rules. Those boxes also come with 5 special cards. It's a really good way in. At Gen Con, we were selling those was it £8.95? We were selling those,
I think so.
$10.
Yeah.
So $10 a miniature. It's not difficult, and you can, as long as you buy the same faction, you can pretty much mix and match whatever you want. It can get more complicated. There's theme lists and things like that to sort of guide you, but you literally can mix and match any faction models that you want, as long as you buy the same faction. So it's pretty easy to get into that way.
Yeah, and I mean, and along those lines too, like even the 2-player starter set is what, 70 pounds, which is about 82 bucks or something like that. And so like if you get a buddy like Evan and I want to get into it, we're just putting in like $35-$40 each, and now we go off and we can play and play against each other, which is better than most board games at this point in life, right? Like,
yeah, jeez.
Again, it's a weird thing when you get into games development. You think, oh, cool, I get to make up new cool abilities and decide what models do. I put months and months into working out the 2-player starter because the previous 2-player starter just had 2 factions in it, and that was great. And people would buy that, and then they would go, oh, I'm going to move on to a different faction, so I've just got these models spare now. And I guess you could build them up to be an extra faction and stuff, but the new 2-player starter has got 10 Ronin models in it, so they do split into 2 samurai houses, and you can fight them against each other, and you can expand on those lists as well. But if you choose a faction, so like you said, you're looking at Savage Wave, there are models in there that work for the Savage Wave, so you can keep some of your models, and whichever faction you choose, some of those starter box models will still continue to be useful.
That's awesome, because like I can't tell you how many people when Legion started, they're like, when it first came out, they're like, all right, I just want rebels. Who wants Empire? Right, and they didn't have anyone to split the box with, so or they just have like a couple boxes of just like random, like, I got a Vader and 2 stormtroopers. I just had in a shoebox for like 3 years because I didn't really want them, but I needed the starter set to get all this other stuff. I can't use them with anything else. So that's actually a really ingenious idea, and it's something I really haven't seen before. In normally you're right, they do like the 2 faction starter, like you're just, here's like the good guys, the bad guys, pick which one you want. But to have generics, that wrong term maybe, but just like a generic Ronin character who can go to a few different spots, so you're not wasting your time building and painting them only to just have them sit on the shelf because you decided you wanted to play the birds, getting their name wrong here, but a different faction completely. So I think that's pretty awesome. Shinto, the Shiho clan, right? Okay, all right.
Well, the Eagles, yeah. I
Yeah,
thought
so
you were talking about the Dissension, but the Eagle clan of samurai, as opposed to the Dissension, who are the Tengu, the bird people.
Oh, okay. Wait a minute. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right, here we go. I'm sorry, I was just looking at the symbols. Like I had honestly, when we were talking and we were ordering stuff, I kind of did I just did a quick glance at all the starter boxes. like, well, that'll be like good to get like some, a couple games in and just have some feeling for it. And yeah, the Tengu are actually pretty dope too. Like a lot of cool, like, I'm glad it went to the fantasy side of it a little bit. That's what I always thought. Again, I keep referencing Test of Honor, but I always felt it needed something a little spicier, because it was like trying to be like a more action miniature game, but like it just felt very like rifles are real good, turns out, when no one else has one. Like, oh, I shot your samurai with the bow, now he's just toast. Like, oh, okay, I mean, thanks, but so that's cool. Oh, okay, so next thought I had for it. So you mentioned tournament, like organized play. Do you do stuff for that?
Yeah, so obviously we released the new edition and then COVID happened, so we're a
Sad.
lot behind where we wanted to be with organized play kind of things. But there's a tournament pack. We had a tournament at Adepticon. It was 32 players.
Okay.
We had a tournament just before that at UK Games Expo, which was about the same. Sorry, just after that. So that's sort of what we're looking at for major events, is about 32 player tournaments, which is it's a decent size for a skirmish game, really.
Yeah.
The tournament pack has got 12 scenarios in it, and they're sort of split into different types of whether you have zones or objectives or what we call VIMs, a very important model, which is like your messenger or your diplomat who has to be in a certain place at a certain time to score you points. And like I say before, all of the scenarios, scoring is something that you wouldn't be doing anyway. It's one of my gripes at the moment with 40k in particular, and games like it. There's a lot of scenarios where you get points for killing the enemy, or you get points for just advancing up the board. Is I was going to do that anyway. I might as well do it because I'm going to get these victory points as well.
Right.
Bushido is very much you have to spend your actions to get victory points, rather than killing the enemy for that action. So it's very much a choice of when you want to score and when you want to fight and things like that. It's a thing to learn in itself. Once you've learned the rules, you kind of have to learn how to win.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I like
So-
that because you're right. A lot of games just even with games like Legion where there's objectives, it's still a lot of the time just comes down to just killing, right? Defeating your opponent by taking their miniatures off the. So I really like the concept of having to strategize about how I'm going to spend my resources in order to accomplish or take the win, really, overall.
And something we've just started doing, which I'm hoping to expand as much as I can. We've got a new type of event where essentially the winners of each round we total up, and there's a questionnaire on the results form, and who wins each round, and then the winner of the overall tournament will affect the ongoing narrative of the game.
Oh, that's cool.
So the very first
yeah.
one we did, it was literally a big question right at the end. We announced the overall winner, gave him his prize, and then said, right, you've read the story, it's in the tournament pack. Each scenario had a little bit of story next to it. You get to choose who is the hero carrying on, and we didn't sort of say exactly what would happen for whichever one he chose, but if he chose the guy you were looking at earlier, actually, Hiro Takashi.
Oh, okay.
So he became the new daimyo of the clan, which also makes him governor of the Joar Isles, because the guy at the tournament who won chose him. If he hadn't, Hiro may well have been killed. And his
okay.
next model would have been as an ancestor spirit.
Oh, that's okay. That's pretty righteous. It's it's nice creating your own IP because you can just do stuff like that. Like there's a thing in Star Wars where one thing, it's a giant conglomerate owned IP, right? So anything's there's like a board of directors who need to make sure, but like every character is like, anytime they talk about Palpatine, they have to say he's pulling the strings. Like on his Legion card, it says pull the strings. And Rise of Skywalker, like, oh, he was behind the scenes the whole time, pulling the strings, right? Like it's very like, that's him for better or worse, but they can't just like axe off Luke if they felt like it. Right. They're not like, oh well, maybe in he died in Shadows of the Empire. Sorry, right? Like, or this you can just be like, yeah, sorry, dude. Do you Takashi's gone, man. Don't know what to tell you. Like, that's just it's kind of cool that you can just do that on a whim. Like, that's nice owning your own like control over it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my other job is working for another games company, and we do miniatures games with IPs, and it's much harder to write organized play just because if you want to include any of those characters, then this needs to go to approval and things. So yeah, it's great with this where I phone up Gordon and say, hey, we're going to kill Hero, and he's like, well, if you have to, So.
Well, if you have to, I guess.
And the other thing that we get from the Masters tournaments is if you run a Grandmasters, which we limit how many you can have, but I'd like to increase the number. We had 3 this year, but the winner of that actually gets to work with us to concept their own profile and model.
That's cool too.
Cool.
They approve concept art and ask for changes, and they either tell us what they want for abilities, or they sort of describe the background to the character, and we'll write it for them. They can be as involved or not involved as they like. I've had everything from 2 pages of background and a fully detailed profile card written to can we have some kind of water dragon, please? So yeah, I don't think there is a better prize in wargaming than that. Everybody wants to make their own model. Some of them get named after the person who concepted them as well. So it's a great thing to have, and then you go to the next tournament and you're using your model.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Well, I think that's all. I mean, listen, at its baseline, the 3 of us here, we're all gamers, right? And that's how we got into everything we're doing. And there's nothing more than you want than to have some impact on the game that you love, right? And so, and for you guys to do stuff like that, and even that earlier story, we're having him pick which one, and that depends on where the story goes. And now you're going to let them create their own hero that can go into this. I think that's how you work with the community and the fans of your game in the right way, and show them that they have a connection to this game that's not as superficial as just like buying it off a shelf and fanboying about it or fangirling about it at a trade show. This is actually, hey, I can, if I win and if I do well at this game and give my time to this and my money to this, that I can actually be involved on some level. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and it's not just for gameplay as well. So a while back we ran there's some special cards called terrain cards, which let you add your own terrain to the game. So for example, one of them's just a rice bale barricade, and it's just basically a thing that's in the way. Everybody seems to think that that's the best card in the game right now, which is why I mentioned that one. But other ones are specific things, like the monks get a roadside shrine, which make them focus easier, so they get more chi energy. And there's lots of these things. We had one to just show off your own modeled terrain, and the prize was to write your own terrain card, so you get another one in the game.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm hoping to do one coming up for write a short story, and we'll include it in the next tournament pack. Every scenario has a little short story next to it. Again, if whoever wins that will get some kind of prize similar to that, where they'll have their story included, but maybe we'll also let them write an event card or something like that, and then use their words for the flavor text on the card.
Oh, that's super cool. Yeah, I think that's how you keep communities together and interested in your game. That's beautiful.
No, that's actually super neat. So that made me think. So you're talking about creating your own stuff.
Here we
What's
go.
your this is my hardball question, what I've been saving for the last my last big throw here. Okay, do you have a pet faction or unit you just really like that's your favorite out of what you've created?
Yeah, I've kind of got two at the moment.
Okay, all right, all right, do all right.
I'll start at the beginning. Before I worked for GCT, I used to play the Temple, all the monks and everything like that. So I've always had a soft spot for them. And I won the first ever Grandmasters tournament and got to make my own model. So
That's awesome.
That's named after me. He's called Master Enos, and he was the first one, which is kind of cool. And then eventually, they let me make as many models as I want. So but obviously he's like he's special for me. But after I started, the first new faction we did was the Bear Clan, and I don't know why the artwork for Aya Masima from the Bear Clan, she's just an Ashigaru. She's got an eye patch. And as soon as I saw the artwork, I immediately understood the entirety of her character and what her profile card was going to be. And she's been one of my favorites ever since. Because I just looked at it and thought, yep, she's that Ashigaru. It's usually a male character, I think, in most fiction, but she's that one who's been through everything. And she's just here, she's doing her job, and she doesn't really care what the enemy are doing. And I don't care that it's a fishman or a ghost or 12-foot red demon ogre thing carrying a Tory arch. The way through it is to form your line, stay in your defensive position, beat it to death with a club. If you win the battle, you won't die. That's her whole thing. She's just a veteran of so many fights that she just gets on with it. So she was. That's the first time I've had that sort of reaction from a piece of artwork. I was just like, yes, I know exactly who this person is. More recently, there's a falconer called Zama. And yeah, again, I saw the artwork and I was just like, this is. I'd read an article about an actual Mongolian falconer, and she's. I won't go into it, but you can Google it. There's a big article about this woman who lives her entire life as a falconer, and she's one of the few women who does it, and she's risen to the top of the profession. I guess it's a profession. And I saw this artwork and I thought, that reminds me just of this documentary thing I've seen. So she got special treatment as well. I'm not sure she's out yet. Actually, I don't think we even previewed her, but it's fine. But yeah,
I was about to say, I'm like looking on the. As you say it, I'm kind of like looking through the faction, and I'm like, maybe I heard him wrong. I guess.
She's going to be coming out. She'll be for the Eagles and the Tengu, the Dissension. Again, I saw the artwork and it reminded me of that thing. So she's one of my current favorites. So maybe not a bit of a cop out choosing three, but
hey, that's honestly, I just a lot of times you'll ask somebody that and they go, well, they're all my favorite. I'm like, yeah, that's not true.
I like that you very specifically picked them. Do you find it when you find the muse and the inspiration for like the ones you just named, do you find it difficult to move on to other ones and then to start developing for them where you didn't get that instant like muse off the top?
So sometimes there's some things just some things just click, and sometimes it's a lot of work. And I guess if the ones that click just like we did the wolf warband, and that was 7 models, and I had a concept that they would fight like a wolf pack, so they would wear down the enemy, get them exhausted, and then all jump on them at once. And that just seemed to work, and even to the point where we put it up for playtesting, and the first week's feedback was like, we've tried them, there's nothing to feedback, everything just seems to work fine. Now we did change some stuff, there were some errors and things like that. I'm not going to say it was perfect, but
sure.
The whole thing did just click. I'm working on one now for the Jung Pirates. The box is called the Deep, and it's a lot of deep sea creatures. And
oh baby,
we've got a lot of profiles, and they're not quite working together how I want them. and that's the difficult part. So I'll keep putting them on the table and sort of playing them just against myself, playing the other list until I can get them to click as a cohesive band. But that's if one of them just works and one of them doesn't, I guess it evens out. So I'm okay with that.
Hey, it's not bad. Yeah, a lot of times it's again, we've all played a lot of games, and then I'm glad to hear that you care about the playtesting, right? Because a lot of times you'll play something and a new thing comes out, or one example I use is like Warhammer Underworlds, where like some of the factions are just head and like shoulders above. Like, oh, you're playing the elves? Oh man, free dinner, thanks. All right, doesn't matter what you roll, what card you play, I got it. Like it's and like you play that, and then I used to play that game and like I used to go to the Grand Clashes. I was really competitive, buying all the card packs and doing all stuff. But yeah, it'd just be like, and you look at the top, like, well, I think the last Grand Clash I went to was in 2019, and the top like 10 factions were one of two. So it was like Stormcast Ghost, Stormcast Ghost, Stormcast Ghost. I'm like, okay. I mean, like, I'm not a game developer, but like, that's a problem, right? Like, there's like 30 factions in this game, like 2 show up, like, so it's I like to hear that you're like, you're trying, right? Like it's like you care, right? And it sometimes it just doesn't feel like that always happens.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really keep an eye on things like tournament results, and we've just moved to using an app called Longshanks, which which will track tournament results and things like that. I'm quite happy now just looking at winners, and no faction is winning excessive amounts. In fact, I think all the major tournaments this year, like the 30+ player tournaments, have all been won by different factions. 2 of them were won by the same player, but he used different factions, so that's
yeah, that's fine.
that's okay. There's definitely issues. My plan at the moment is we're actually doing what we call the balance errata. We're nearly 4 years into this edition, so we're going to look back. We're going to have a few tweaks at things. Mostly, this is going to be to make sure that some of those models that got missed get a little bump, so that they become more playable. But we'll also tone down anything that we made mistakes with, and fix anything that's egregious. And I'm expecting this to be the only one that I do for this entire edition of the game. I don't know how long the edition is going to last, but I don't want to do this constantly.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of issues myself. I don't know if you played War Machine during the days of CID, or even just 40k today. We've not had a big 40k release for a few months, but they've had 4 updates online, and I don't want that for this game. So hoping to do one big balance change, and then that'll be it, and the game should be settled. There will still be new releases coming out, but we're not going to go back and make huge changes in what you've already got.
That's cool, because there's a lot of investment in a miniature, like a lot of investment, like painting and building an army in 40k, and then the next edition comes out, and it's like, oh, sorry, yours is trash, and you're like, not even that. That doesn't have to be amazing, but like, you're like, oh, I can't really even compete. That's always a bummer, and because you put so much of yourself into your army, like it's nice that even though like your smaller model count, it's like, even though it's only like 7 guys, like it's still like, that was my weekend, or some people spend way more time, but like that was like my time I took. I could have been doing anything else, but I spent, modeling my dude because I really like him. And to know that he's not, even if he gets like forgotten, like, games grow past certain things when other stuff comes out, and you got to go back and like give those other guys a little bit of a boost. But it's nice to know that they're not like just left out. They're not like my shelf fodder of, something that's just going to sit there and look pretty. I might actually get to play them again.
Yeah, we're conscious that people have bought certain models, and so we don't want to make them invalid or anything like that. Especially like for example, and I do love the thing about this. Like, I talk to 40k players, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Magnus the Red's been a bit of a problem. He does far too much sidekicks, but you know, he is a genetically engineered leader of super soldiers who's 10,000 years old. What's the problem in your game? And I'm like, oh, gorillas and bulls. The gorilla list is really terrorizing certain factions, and anybody who takes 2 bulls is doing really well at the moment. So, but equally, you know, people have paid for those 2 gorillas and those 2 bulls, so I don't want to make sure I don't want to make it useless to have 2. But we are going to have to tone those down.
It's funny, Jay. We're like, yeah, man, Darth Vader's really good. I don't know. And then to have somebody like, yeah, man, someone brought, oh, like I can imagine going to a tournament like, oh, geez, that guy brought double gorilla. Geez, here we go. All right, I don't know what am I gonna do about that double bull. Come on, like the new meta, like.
Well, we with the foxes. I don't know if you saw the fox box. It came with a separate theme, which is like all the sort of fairy tale creatures, and it can have both gorillas, but it also has infinite monkeys. Every turn you can deploy an extra monkey, just keep going. Yeah, it's animals are a big part of it, and it just turns out that gorillas, whilst working for the temple, are fine, but once they join the Yakuza, there's a problem with the gorillas.
Yo, I'm kind of like, it's hard to even be like real mad about that. Like, it's, you know, it's like when like they're doing previews for Mando coming out, and he looks very strong, and it's like on the character, like, well, it's Mando, he's supposed to be good, right? It's kind of a thing, but it's funnier to me that like just a pack of like organized crime gorillas is like got its like monkey paw around the throat of the game, just like threatening. That's just, it's like it's a funny problem. Like it's just like it's actually pretty good. But I think that was all my questions. Jay, how about you?
Yeah, I think this is a good start and a good primer for, you know, for our audience to get into this. If by the end of this interview and you heard about organized crime gorillas and infinite monkeys and you're not interested in this game, I think there's something wrong with you. So I'm like looking like my bank account is about to frown, because as we're talking about all this, I'm going, oh yeah, that sounds awesome. Oh yeah, I'm totally gonna get that starter set, the Nari. Oh yeah, that looks good too. It's a good thing I was too busy at Adepticon, because I for sure would have just been like, yeah, give me 5 of those.
Well, we'll get you the next one.
Yeah, oh yeah, now you will for sure. But yeah, hey, we appreciate you coming on and giving us your time here. And this game looks amazing, and Evan and I are looking forward to getting it on the table and start painting it and stuff. And so you know, we'd really love to have you on again and talk more. Maybe when some of those miniatures that you spoiled come out, we can actually talk about them.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, thanks for having me on. If you are interested, I try and maintain a good presence on the Discord and the Facebook groups. So definitely join those. Anybody who's interested, if you get on there, there is the Discord in particular is very busy. Lots of people willing to help with all kinds of stuff. You can look at the painting and modeling section for painting that I could never match and never hope to. It always drives me jealous, but yeah, there's also rules questions on there, and usually myself or my main rules guy Andy can answer anything the same day. So that's cool. It's well worth joining that, and the Facebook group as well. I think it's called Bushido the game. Definitely worth having a look if you're getting into the game.
Yeah, and we'll put the links to all the social groups in the description of the podcast, so people can just click there and go to them. Perfect. Well, Jason, thank you so much for joining us.
No, it's been great. Good to see people getting into the game. So I hope you enjoy it. And yeah, I can't wait to come back, see what you think.
Cool.